Zimbabwe, where the U.S. President Donald Trump has extended sanctions against the country by a year, saying that the new government's policies continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary, in quote, threat to America's foreign policy. The renewal comes despite calls by African leaders, including South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, for the sanctions to be lifted in order to give the country a chance to recover from its economic crisis. Trump's administration officials had said the sanctions will remain until the government of President Emerson Mnangagwa changes Zimbabwe's laws restricting media freedom and allowing for protests.
In total, more than 140 people are targeted by these sanctions, including President Emerson Mnangagwa and former head of state Robert Mugabe. Zimbabwean companies are also targeted and therefore cannot do business with American companies. This decision by the United States is a real setback for President Mnangagwa as he tries to attract foreign investors to the country.
Joseph Slavich is a policy analyst based in Washington, D.C., USA. He joins us now. A warm welcome to you, Joseph. President Trump has extended Zimbabwe's sanctions by 1 year, saying Zimbabwean government's policies pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to U.S. foreign policy. Could you explain what this means in clear terms?
Basically, they were sanctions that were imposed under the Clinton administration. They were renewed under Obama and carried forth under the Trump administration. And the purpose or the main reason for this is that they felt that there wasn't enough reforms being made in Zimbabwe. Although President Mugabe had left and President Mnangagwa had been elected, they felt that there wasn't enough reform and it was just a matter of surface changes and there wasn't anything fundamentally changed about the system in Zimbabwe.
Now, don't you think the extension will further weaken the economy of Zimbabwe, considering the current economic crisis the country is facing?
Well, currently in Washington, D.C. now, the finance minister is in Washington meeting with the World Bank and IMF due to the nature and what's happening in the economy. As you know, Zimbabwe has borrowed close to $1 billion recently from various African banks, and there is a serious currency shortage, particularly dollars, in Zimbabwe. Most of the time, most countries have a relationship with the United States Federal Reserve. And Zimbabwe does not have that relationship with the U.S. Federal Reserve. They call that being the windows being open. That means it allows the two central banks to collaborate and exchange dollars and calculate valuations, and that doesn't exist today. So the Zimbabwean foreign minister is in Washington now, trying to engage with the World Bank, IMF, and I'm told as of this morning that the foreign minister is expected to come to Washington at the end of the month as they are in serious crisis.
Let me come in here. The United Nations recently launched an appeal for $234 million in humanitarian assistance to more than 5 million Zimbabweans in need. What impact could the extension of U.S. sanctions have on this appeal for donations?
Well, it's a drop in the bucket, let's put it that way. The South Africans, particularly President Ramaphosa, have been really pushing hard in New York to see some type of ease and some type of lines of credit and support in terms of humanitarian. As you know, there's a lot of people in need in Zimbabwe, particularly when it comes to foodstuff and food stock and fuel. So South Africa has taken the lead, but the U.S., the U.K., and France, they all seem to be dragging their feet a little bit on this.
Now, as a policy analyst, what do you think African countries can currently do in terms of building a solid relationship with the current U.S. administration?
Well, the key, like in anything in life, is to have great dialogue and to communicate. I think Zimbabwe's been a little slow in terms of really extending and making overtures towards the Trump administration. I think they thought once the elections were held that the clouds would part and the sun would come out and things would be perfect. And that's just a step. It's just one small step, too many more steps that are required. So my belief is, if you're going to ask any African country, is they have to stay engaged. The U.S. looks at things as upward or downward trends. And I think that if most countries are honest and forthright and frank, that they can see upward trends in their relationship with the U.S., be it economic or political. In Zimbabwe, I think their intentions are in the right place, but their efforts have been lost, and they're kind of trying to off the trodden path, and they need to find themselves back onto that highway towards dialogue and transparency.